Right everyone, welcome back to the channel. No, I haven't gone mad, although I feel a little bit like it because of lockdown. I'm sure we're all pretty much feeling the same. But you'll see I'm wearing a rucksack and a very old Berghaus waterproof jacket. This particular one is a Mira Peak, which I bought when I was 18, so it's now the grand old age of 20-year-old jacket. In this video I wanted to show some of the kit I used to use when I very first started wild camping. I'm very conscious of the fact that I've got some more expensive pieces of equipment, Hilleberg tents, some nice pieces of clothing and outdoor garments, but it wasn't always like that. When I first started getting into the outdoors, I was around, like I say, 14 years old. And I had a bit of a part-time job in a local garden centre. I was on £2.50 an hour. Then I used to work in a local Odeon cinema and I wasn't on very much more. So in short, I didn't have very much money and I couldn't afford some of the better pieces of equipment. But that's not to say I wasn't able to enjoy the outdoors and go camping and go wild camping. So in this video, I wanted to make the point that it's not all about expensive pieces of equipment, and some of the cheaper items of gear are absolutely fine. And by no means I was never always able to afford some of the equipment I've got now. I'm lucky enough that I've got a reasonably well paid job and I can afford some of the sort of more luxury items of gear. So enough whittling on. It's boiling in this jacket because it's got a spray-away fleece sipped into it as well. I'm going to show you the stuff I've got on. Very first thing I'm going to talk about is the rucksack, which is on my back. That is from Aldi, and anyone in the US or not from the UK, although it probably is in some other European countries, it's just a budget, low-cost supermarket, and they sell pieces of equipment, and they have these rucksacks on sale. I think it's 60 litres, and it's made by a brand called Adventure Ridge, and it was £20. Yes, 20 quid for a 60 litre rucksack. Yeah, it's not the best made, and it's not the best quality. But it's a 60 litre rucksack which I was able to buy really cheaply, and it fits all my gear in for a wild camp. So without further ado, let's have a little look at the pack and we'll go through all the items of gear and I'll show you how you can wild camp for the cheaper end of the scale. So it weighs a ton. Let's get this jacket off. So like I say, it's a cheap rucksack made by Adventure Ridge, and it's got cheap zips. It's flimsy, but it does the job. So this Mira Peak I got when I was 18 from a shop called Ellis Brigham's in Liverpool. I just started university and I got my student loan, so the very first thing I did was go and blow it all on a nice outdoor jacket. It's 20 years old, an original Mira Peak. I'll never get rid of it, and it's got a lovely spray-away fleece inside from a shop called, used to be called George Henry Lee's, which is now known as John Lewis in Liverpool, and that was bought by my nan, and that's something I will never ever get rid of. 14 when I got this fleece, so the fleece is very old. It still looks good and I look after it, and the jacket's a Mira Peak. It's the jacket that I used to take on all my outdoor walks, climbs, adventures with the lads. And there's some archive footage somewhere with me, Walshy and Matt on Snowdon when we were teenagers. I'll try and dig it out, rubbish quality, but if I can find it, I'll put it on the channel, all for you to have a look at. That's a cracking coat, legendary status now, iconic jacket, and I'll always keep it. So, I used to take my trusty Mira Peak. Tent-wise, like I've said, I'm lucky enough now to own Hilleberg tents, which I think are very good. Great quality. I don't need to say any more on that, but they're very expensive, and I couldn't always afford tents like that. A trusty Van Gogh Tempest 200. Okay, I'll just attach that to the bottom of the pack on these sort of straps at the base of it. But this tent, it's a two-man tent. It's heavy. I don't know the exact specs because it's not a detailed look at this. But it's a cheap Van Gogh tent. I think this cost me about £100 at the time. It's a tunnel tent. It's got 2 poles. It's really simple to pitch. It's got Van Gogh's tension band system, which in tunnel tents they can sometimes suffer in winds depending on what direction the wind's blowing from, and the tension band system just gives it some lateral rigidity. It's a load of straps inside the tent basically which stop it blowing from side to side. It makes it much more stable. So it comes in this carrying pouch, and it's got a bit of a handle that you can use on it there, but it's a 2-man tent. It's heavy, but it was cheap, and this is what I used to take before I was sort of filming things. So it's a good bit of kit, and it's not an expensive Hilleberg. It was around £100. They're not much more than that. I don't know if they're still making this particular model, but there's I think what I'll do is in the description of the video I will have a look for its modern day equivalent and leave it in the description below. You don't have to spend hundreds and hundreds of pounds on tents. So this is what I used to take. Then in the base of the pack, it's the same sleeping bag I've had for years. It's a Van Gogh Viper 500. Yeah, Van Gogh Viper 500. I've had the same bag again. It must be about 15 years old, 12 to 15 years old. It's not the lightest and it's not the warmest, but it's done me well. It's starting to get a few holes in it here and there now, and I've got some tenacious tape which has just arrived. So I'm going to patch this up and carry on using it until it falls apart, because I've managed to get by with it and it does the job, and I don't need anything else. So I take my sleeping bag there. In the pack itself, in terms of water, I've never filtered my water, although I've kindly been sent a Knock Vecto pouch to store water. It's like a bladder, and I'm waiting on the arrival of a filter, and obviously when the lockdown's off I can use that. I'll be making a video of it, but ordinarily I used to just carry my water in. It weighs an absolute ton and adds to the overall pack weight, but it keeps you fit and it makes you stronger when you're walking up mountains with that. I would take 4 litres of water, and again it weighs about 1 kilo a litre, so I'd be adding to the weight, but that's just what I used to do. So you don't have to have an expensive fancy water filtering system. If you're going for one night, carry your water in if you want, adds to the weight, but it's a cheap option. In the pack, things I would typically take back in the day, head torches weren't the LED varieties we see now. They were these. They had like these filament bulbs inside, and huge square sort of 9-volt battery I think it was on the back, made by Petzl, and you turn it on just by rotating that, and you could sort of to a degree focus the beam. These are legendary. I don't think this works anymore because all the terminals are corroded, but when I very first started scrambling in North Wales, this was gifted to me by my auntie and uncle, and this was the head torch I used to take. I mean, look at the size of it. It's an absolute beast, and the battery again just weighed a ton. Now when you look at modern day equivalents by Olight, LED Lenser, Petzl, you know, some of the modern ranges, well, how technology's moved on, but these in the day, when you know, you know, and if you've had one of these, yeah, they're just classics. One day I'm going to bring it back to working order, but again, I'm very sentimental and I like to keep hold of my gear. I've got loads of good memories associated with this torch, and I'll always keep it, but the classic. So there you go, a massive head torch. In terms of cookware, I couldn't afford titanium pots and pans, so I buy these enamel things. Again, they weigh an absolute ton, but cheap as chips. If you use metallic cutlery on them, they really go through you. The way they grate in the bottom of the bowl. But I take these. Now, in terms of cooking, I did shell out on an MSR stove back in the day, and this is the original version of the Pocket Rocket. This is all one take, so there you go. And it's just a screw on. Let's get it out. Gas stove. Anyone who goes camping and into the outdoors knows about an MSR Pocket Rocket. There's been lots more versions. They've had various tweaks and improvements to the windshield. Some of them have got piezo igniters built into them, but this is very simple and robust, and it's very, very powerful. It's like a Bunsen burner, you know, when you were in school in your biology and chemistry lessons and used to set fire to things at the back of the class. this is really powerful. You know, the strength of the flame on this really gets your water boiling in no time. One of the downsides is it's a really concentrated heat source on the bottom of your pan or whatever you're cooking in, so things tend to burn if you're heating up food. You can regulate it fairly well, so you can get the flame to a decent simmering strength. But yeah, it's not the lightest stove, and it's quite bulky, but it comes in this case, and it's robust. And again, this is one of the very first, gas stoves which I bought. I've got some Coleman ones, the Coleman Sporter 533, I think. That's upstairs in the loft. I did buy some of them back early on in the day. Cups, I didn't have titanium mugs. I used to have this. The handle snapped off it, but I've got another one which I purposely snapped the handle off just to make it less bulky. Handle protrudes quite a far distance from the cup. But yeah, it's an insulated mug by Berghaus. I used to get these. I've still got loads up in the loft, probably about 10 years out of date. Coffee, little instant sachets. It doesn't taste anything like coffee. Any of you that's tried it, let me know in the comments below. But it's horrible. But it's a warming drink, and it's got sugar in, and it was cheap. And I used to get them from Home Bargains. You could buy a big plastic container with hundreds in for a couple of quid. So who knows what's in it? It's vaguely coffee-like, but it's got sugar in, and yeah, small sausage of that. Chuck a couple of them into your mug, and that would do me for my hot drinks. Windshield, these aren't expensive bits of kit. I use the same one, and I've had it for, I don't know, God knows how long. It's just a fold-out sort of concertina. When you're using these stoves on the hill, if there's any wind, it massively reduces the efficiency of the flame, and it's just blowing the heat away from your pan. So get the windshield around it. A Gore-Tex Army surplus bivvy bag. I got this one from Military Mart. I've got two of these. I lost one on a wild camp around Pendle Hill. It come off my pack, and yeah, I only realised basically when I got to my camp location. Went back, retraced my steps, couldn't find it. So someone's got a lovely Gore-Tex Army bivvy bag on me. But yeah, I would, in some of the sort of colder months of the year, just to add a little bit more warmth and to protect my sleeping bag from condensation inside the tent, I would just take the bivvy bag and chuck that around the sleeping bag. What else? Small gas cartridges. On these stoves, it's also helpful if you get some of the feet, which it's like a tripod design, just fits onto the base of the canister and makes it a bit more stable. But these are really cheap. This particular one is by MSR, and it's an all-season fuel blend. You can get one with a mix sort of designed for winter and colder weather, and it burns better. But this is an all-season mix from MSR. Doesn't take up much room in your pack, and one of them would last you. There's enough gas for one camping trip. Pans, back in the day, there's no MSR Titan kettles. These huge cook sets, this by MSR, which brings me onto the subject of food. So I'd have that, look at the amount of space that's using up in the pack. But yeah, that's what I used to bring. And I would literally take those tins of all-day breakfasts for food. Again, weighs a ton, but there was no luck what we found meals. I didn't used to buy dehydrated, sort of camping meals in those pouches. I just used to take tins, all-day breakfasts, beans and sausages, beans, typical old school camping food, which weighs a ton. Take a tin, and there's obviously have to take a tin opener as well. What else have we got? Sleep mats. I used to use, believe it or not, the foam mats to sleep on. I don't know how the hell I got a good night's sleep on them when I was younger, but I did. Now, God, I wouldn't last an hour sleeping on one of them, because I suffer from back pain now when I sleep on the camping mats. But yeah, you don't have to buy expensive Thermarest Neo-Airs and Neo-Air X-Lights. And this is a cheap one. The brand is Deer Fammy. It's just a cheap Chinese brand, I think, from Amazon. I think this was about £15. I've not used this, but for the price, it packs down reasonably small. And when you get into the higher end Thermarest models, they can be, well, most of them are upwards of £100. The X-Therms are, I think they're about 150, 160 pounds, absolutely extortionate. So this for 15 quid, yeah, you just blow it up yourself and it's like a big lilo, but it does the job, and it's a lot more comfortable than sleeping just on a foam mat. So take that as well, or a version of it. Pillows, again, this is, there's a climbing shop in Battersea Coed in North Wales, and the brand is a Jungalac, an air pillow, or a Comfort Pute. I prefer that one, look at that, a Comfort Pute. It's 140 grams. The brand is actually Mammut or Mammut, but there you go. It's an inflatable pillow. It's like a bit of a kidney bean shape, but it's light. It's got a nice plush lining, so it's nice and comfortable to sleep on. These always used to deflate, the valve would come off. There was a little press, sort of like plastic needle, which would go into the inflatable valve. It'd always come out in the middle of the night and you'd be flat, you'd have to inflate it again and try and get the valve to stick in. But I've still got that, again, lots of good memories associated with, you know, my earlier bits of gear, so I won't ever get rid of it. What else? Lanterns, the UCO or the UCO candle lantern. This is very, very old, again, somewhere around 20 years, bought from a outdoor shop which is no longer in existence in Battersea Coed. Yeah, a couple of people have just done videos. Ant from Survive the Night has shown a very helpful instructional video on how you can make your own candles, because they take the 9-hour UCO candles which go in there. They're quite expensive, so yeah, it's a good video by Ant showing how to make your own. And also Simon, a bloke in the woods, he showed a conversion whereby you can use paraffin, and yeah, you make your own little cartridge that slots inside the base of this. But again, I've had that for must be about 20 years now. It's never failed. It's really simple. You've obviously got to faff around trying to get that lit, and the top of it there gets very, very hot indeed. So when you're using that inside a tent, obviously exercise some caution. But I've had that for a while, and yeah, it was one of the earliest lanterns I've ever bought. What else? I think we've just got a fire steel, and that was just for getting the stove started. Cutlery, I didn't buy titanium spoons and sporks, which you can get now, you know, things that just weigh next to nothing. Army surplus, solid stainless steel fork, knife and spoon, which just slot together there, and that is it. You know, you'd obviously have different layers of clothing on. I didn't have expensive clothing. Like I said, I bought this jacket, but that was blowing my student loan on it. So it just shows you a cheap bag. You know, you can fit all this in. We've got a baby bag, a sleeping bag, you know, the tent, pillow, sleep mat, stove, windshield. You don't need anything else. I didn't used to lug up loads of beer and wine back in the day. So you can do it for not a lot of money, basically. And that's what I used to do. You know, there's no way in the day I could have afforded nice Osprey and Fjallraven rucksacks. This is just what I had at the time, and I'm very lucky now to be able to afford some more expensive items of gear. But it just goes to show that to get started in the outdoors, and not even just, people use that phrase, to get started. It's not to get started, it's to do it. You can do everything that people do with the more expensive brands. It's probably like everything, isn't it? Most hobbies, as they progress, you want to buy naturally better bits of kit. You want to improve what you've got. So I don't like that phrase really, to get started, because you know, this is everything you need to carry on with the hobby. You keep to the lower end of gear for the duration of your hobby into wild camping. So that's it really. I hope everyone's doing okay in the lockdown. It's obviously been extended now by another 3 weeks. I've been painting the fences in the back garden. I've sold bits of gear to fund a second-hand guitar which I've bought, and I'm learning that again. So now is the time to start new things, learn a new hobby, paint, do some home improvements. But it's getting tough, isn't it? I hope everyone's okay, like I say, and that you've all got a good support network. I live on my own, so yeah, it is very quiet around the house. and yeah, times are tough, and I'm very much looking forward to being able to get back out into the outdoors and enjoy the hobby that I love so much, wild camping. That's my little bit of escapism, the thing I love to do, and it's very tough not being able to do that at the moment. So let's hope these measures are only in place for as long as is necessary, and that we'll all be able to go out and enjoy the great outdoors soon. So that's it, folks. I think what I'm going to do is, following on from this video, maybe tomorrow, I'll get that Tempest 200 tent set up in the back garden, and I'll show you around that, one of the cheaper tents I own, which is it's brilliant. So we'll have a look at that in the next video. But if you've liked this, if you found anything useful, give it a thumbs up. It means a lot to me because it really helps the channel. It helps me out on YouTube. If you're not a subscriber to MCM Outdoor Show, consider subscribing to the channel. And I've got an Instagram feed, so if you head over to Instagram, you can follow me on there and post various bits and pieces. So stay safe, everyone. Stay sane. Stay safe and stay sane. And I will see you on the next video. Take care.